Here's a story I heard from my grandfather, and it's one that kept me looking over my shoulder every time I heard the wind rustle through the trees. It's about the whispering oak and the fate of those who dared to disturb its slumber. Deep in the heart of Briarwood Forest, there stood an ancient oak tree, as old as time itself. The locals called it the Whispering Oak, because on quiet nights, you could hear its branches creak and groan, as if it were murmuring secrets to the wind. But those who lived near the forest knew better than to venture too close, especially after dark. You see, the Whispering Oak wasn't just any tree. My grandfather told me it was alive. Not in the way that all trees are alive, but truly alive. Almost like a sentient being with roots deep in the earth and branches that stretched high into the sky. And it had a sinister reputation. For as long as anyone could remember, children who seemed to play too loudly in the forest would vanish without a trace. It all started decades ago, when a group of young boys, full of mischief and bravado, as you do, dared each other to camp in the woods overnight. They made camp near the great oak tree, their laughter echoing through the trees as they told ghost stories and played games, heedless of the creatures trying to rest. Now, as night fell, the forest grew eerily quiet. The boys didn't notice the shifting shadows or the way the wind seemed to whisper through the leaves, growing louder with every passing moment. There was a sudden rustling from the direction of the Whispering Oak. The boys paused mid-laughter, slowly turning their heads, looking towards the tree. It was as if the forest itself had come alive. The branches of the oak twisted and writhed like snakes. At first, in the darkness of the forest, they couldn't tell what these things moving in the shadows were. They started stretching towards them with a creak and groan. In an instant, the tree's roots surged from the ground. They tangled around the boys like living ropes. Their screams were swallowed by the night as the tree pulled them into its ancient trunk. Now, when the morning came, there was no sign of the boys. Their tents left unattended, their fire letting off a bit of smoke. The forest was as still as a graveyard, and the Whispering Oak stood silent. The people in the town searched for weeks. They went in day after day, night after night, with search dogs, their parents' voices echoing through the woods, each child's name. All that anyone ever found were tattered pieces of clothing that they knew the children were wearing, tangled in the branches, as if they had always been there and the tree had slowly grown around them. It was impossible for a tree to have grown around this item of clothing overnight, so they just assumed it had been there for decades, and eventually the tree absorbed the items of clothing. But the tree had absorbed the children, making them part of its own twisted form. The story of the Whispering Oak spread far and wide. Parents warned their children not to disturb the forest at night for fear of incurring the tree's wrath. And those who dared to ignore the warnings were never seen again. As these years passed, more children disappeared, each incident leaving behind only whispers and fragments of clothing embedded in the bark of the trees. The oak seemed to grow more enormous with each passing year, its bark marred with the imprints of tiny hands and sometimes faces, only to be seen at the right time of day when the light casts a shadow enough to see the imprints. Now, some folks claim to hear the whispers of the lost children when the wind blew just right, a haunting chorus pleading for release. Others said the tree bore the twisted shapes of young faces forever trapped within the ancient wood. Now, one day, a group of brave souls decided to cut down the oak, thinking it might break the curse. But as their axes bit into the tree, a deafening wail filled the air. The forest itself seemed to shudder in anger. They heard the screams of the children from within the tree. With each swing, you felt in your bones as if you had just embedded the axe in a child in front of you. The dread that followed caused them to flee, even leaving their tools behind, and the Whispering Oak stood tall and unscathed. To this day, that forest remains a place of dread, and the Whispering Oak is its heart, a grim sentinel guarding the secrets of those it has claimed. So if you ever find yourself wandering near Briar Forest, keep your voices low and keep your steps light, for the Whispering Oak still stands, listening, waiting, hungry for those who dare to disturb its sleep. And remember, not all who enter the forest leave. Some become part of it forever. Now, my grandfather always warned me about Briarwood Forest. He told me these stories to keep me safe, to keep me away from this cursed place where children vanished into the shadows, swallowed by the ancient, vengeful tree. But as I grew older, curiosity got the better of me. I spent years searching for the truth. I no longer believed in this story. Trying to uncover the secrets of the Whispering Oak, I scoured old maps, local legends, and I visited forests around the world. I was always looking for that one tree. Now, it wasn't until I came across this odd fact that all these pieces finally fell into place for me. Some forests, like those that house the world's tallest tree, like the Hyperion, are off limits to the public. Now, I don't believe it's just for preservation. but I think it's for protection from what lurks within the forests. These places are shrouded in secrecy. They hold more than just towering giants that they're protecting. They may hide these sinister spirits like the Whispering Oak, waiting for anyone foolish enough to seek them out. So heed my warning. The next time you come across a forest you're not allowed to enter, think twice about why it's forbidden. Not all places are off limits for preservation alone. Some woods are best left alone. Their secrets are too dark and too ancient to disturb. And if you ever hear a whisper in the trees, or feel a chilling breeze through the branches, remember this story. The Whispering Oak, or something like it, might just be reaching for you.